Ladies and gentlemen, and a happy audience. Before we start our agenda today, we'd like to show you a special performance from Eliana Bira. She is one of the multi-major students at the State Polytechnic of Samarinda, and she was candidate for a solo singer at the National Porseni Competition in 2020. And she will sing a song that called Balarut di Sungai Mahakam. So, ladies and gentlemen, and a happy audience, please welcome Eliana Bira.
Sungai Mahakam memecah buih, bersinar putih di ayun angin pohon dumbia. Perahu tambalan balarut banyu membawa orang bersinggah-singgah di jembatan. Dari hulu Sungai Mahakam, tambangan bawah hasil bumi, batu bara, wan batang kayu, makan jaman, pulau Arman, tambangan balarut sini. Kada heran balarut di Sungai Mahakam. Kada heran balarut di Sungai Mahakam. Sungai Mahakam memecah buih, bersinar putih di ayun angin pohon rumbia. Perahu tambangan balarut banyu, bersinggah putih. Dari hulu Sungai Mahakam, tambangan bawah hasil bumi, batu bara, wan batang kayu, mata jaman, pulau Arman. Kada heran balarut di Sungai Mahakam. Kada heran balarut di Sungai Mahakam. Mahakam, Mahakam. Terima kasih.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Allow us to introduce ourselves. I'm Dewi Sinta.
And I'm Muhammad Fahril Anugrah, and we are the Master of Ceremony. First of all, we would like to say thank you for coming to our amazing agenda today, and welcome to the 4th International Conference on Applied Science and Technology 2021.
Your Excellency, Mr. Wikan Sakarinto, ST MSc PhD, as a Director General of Vocational Education.
The respectable Dr. Insinyur Haji Isra Nur, MSI, as the Governor of East Kalimantan.
Your Excellency, Professor Dr. Adrianus Amheka, STMN, as Chairman of ICAST.
The respectable Dr. Zainal Arif, STMT as a chairman of Indonesia Polytechnic Director Forum.
The Honorable Mr. Ramli STMN as the Director, State Polytechnic of Samarinda.
Your Excellency Arkas Vidi PhD as the Director of State Polytechnic of Nunukan.
Respectable, the Vice Director of State Polytechnic of Samarinda.
The Head of Senate of State Polytechnic of Samarinda.
Respectable all of the speakers and keynote speakers.
The Honorable all our guests who are joining with us on site and online.
Respectable, the Head of the Department and the Head Office of State Polytechnic of Samarinda.
And our beloved participant of International Conference on Applied Science and Technology 2021 from all of the Polytechnic of Indonesia.
So now, we would like to bring you to our next agenda, that is singing Indonesia National Anthem, Indonesia Raya, and marching song of State Polytechnic of Samarinda. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Before we continue, let us, all of us, praise to God for all the blessing we've been receiving, so that up to now, we're still in good health in the second year COVID-19 pandemic. For us, in a vocational education, hopefully this situation won't make us stop innovating. This turbulence and trials we've been experiencing, with all our limitation, won't make us weak, but strengthen us instead to keep giving the best to our nation, to show our gratitude as well as asking for God to make it easy for us in dedication ourselves to our instructions. Let us to make a moment to pray, which will be led by Mr. Abdul Halik STMT. Time is yours.
Let's pray together for this event to be blessed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And allow me to guide the prayer for the Muslims. As for our non-Muslim brothers and sisters, please have it your way. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. حمد الشاكرين حمد الناعمين حمدا يوافي نعمه ويكافي مزيده يا ربنا لك الحمد كما ينبغي لجلال وجهك العظيم سلطانك اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وزدنا علما نافعا وعملا متقبلا ورزقا حلالا طيبا ونسألك خيرا كثيرا ونسألك تمام العافية وإلى الخير قربنا وعن الشر بعيدنا اللهم بك أصبحنا وبك أمسينا وبك نحيا وبك نموت وإليك النشور اللهم أغني بالعلم وزيني بالحلم وأكرمني بالتقوى وجملني بالعافية اللهم ارزقنا فهم النبي وحفظ المرسلين وإلهام الملائكة المقربين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Thank you very much. May God bless us so our agenda can run well without any trouble and obstacle.
So let's move to our next agenda. Polytechnic, as a higher vocational education, has a central role to bring our country forward. The mission of vocational education, that is to create dependable human resources, becomes an assurance whether Indonesia will be putting itself in an equal with other developed countries in the world. With a wide variety of uniqueness, Polytechnic all over Indonesia have gathered together in this massive conference to strengthen the different roles played by higher vocational education. One of the implementation of fulfilling these roles are laid by ICAST through this annual ICAST meeting. For that purpose, let us watch together ICAST in action in this video.
For the next agenda is a welcome speech. For the first welcome speech is from General Chair of ICAST 2021, Mrs. Amiril Aziza, SA, MSI, PhD. The golden stage belongs to you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the International Conference on Applied Science and Technology, ICAST 2021. On behalf of the conference committee, I'm glad to have this opportunity to deliver this opening message today. Because of COVID-19 pandemic, we have decided to prepare our conference on a hybrid for the ceremony and the participant presentation online. To begin, I would like to thank Director of Samarinda State Polytechnic, Mr. Ramli, well as its Vice Director, Mr. Ahyar, PhD, Mr. Arkasvidi, PhD, Director of Nunukan State Polytechnic. And I would like to thank our distinguished keynote speaker, Professor Arshad Ahmad from University Technology Malaysia, Professor Peter Shehan from Victoria University, Melbourne, Australia, and speaker, Dr. Hairuzaman, Director of Business Syariah, Kaltim Tara Bank. Mr. Wikan Sakarinto, as Director General of Vocational Education, and will officially opening ICAST today. Moreover, I also express my heartfelt thanks to the ICAST Consortium, committee, reviewers, and all people who have supported this event. This year, the committee had received 460 submitted manuscripts from 3 countries, which are Indonesia, Malaysia, and Taiwan. Through a double-blind pre-review process, the committee carefully selected 352 research papers that will be presented on parallel session by online today. And paper rejected are 64. This conference has 2 tracks, which are engineering science and social science. The committee wishes to receive a solid scientific paper that discussion on the theme of developing innovation and green technology to sustain the economic and social life in new normal. I do through the discussion and knowledge sharing session, the conference will bring a positive contribution and impact to the academic and our society. Before I finish my speech, I wish all of us have great 4th International Conference on Applied Science and Technology 2021. Once again, thank you for the great contribution and participation in making this event successful. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much to Mrs. Amirul Aziza.
So, for the second welcome speech is from Chairman of ICAST, Professor Dr. Adrianus Amheka, STMA. Time is yours.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Om Santi Santi Om. Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan, dan salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Izinkan saya untuk speech in English for this honor international conference today. Your Excellencies, Director General of Vocational, Mr. Wikan Sakarinto, PhD, Chairman of Indonesia Polytechnic Director Forum, Mr. Dr. Zainal Arif, Chairman of the Research Commission of the Director Forum of State Polytechnic in Indonesia, Bapak Dr. Ahmad Takwa, and all Director of State Polytechnic in Indonesia. Your Excellencies, Director of State Polytechnic of Samarinda, Mr. Ramli STMA, you are really friendly and fully support this year ICAST as the host in POLNES. Along with top management level from POLNES and Chairman of the ICAST, Mrs. Amirul Aziza, PhD, and colleagues at POLNES. Your Excellencies, also I give to the keynote speakers, Professor Arshad, Ahmad from University Technology Malaysia, and Professor Peter Shehan from Victoria University, Melbourne, Australia. Your Excellencies, Head of Center for Research and Community Services at State Polytechnic in Indonesia, and also Your Excellencies, ICAST Supervisor, Mr. Dr. Rambat Imbang Tri Cahyono as Director of State Polytechnic of Bandung, and Mr. Dr. Ahmad Takwa as Director of State Polytechnic of Sriwijaya, and Mrs. Professor Lilik Sudi Ajeng from State Polytechnic of Bali. Also, Your Excellencies, a delivery to ICAST board member, which is Deputy Chairman of ICAST, and Head of Division, especially Conference Division, Dr. Udin Harun and its team, the secretaries and treasurer, and all board members of ICAST. And also, Your Excellencies, colleagues from academic, students, bureaucrats, professional, partner institutions, ICAST observers, and prospect ICAST member, and all of us that been here today. First of all, let's pray and thanks to our God who has given us his mercies, blessing, help us, and intervention so that the 4th International Conference on Applied Science and Technology 2021 that we call ICAST 2021 at the State Polytechnic of Samarinda as the host can be held properly. ICAST 2021 is the one of the series of international scientific meeting activities. Its journey has just reached its 4 years since it was held at 3 polytechnic, state polytechnic, among others in Manado in 2018, Bali in 2019, and last year in Padang in 2020. It was conducted virtually in Padang. And today it grandly held at State Polytechnic of Samarinda virtually as well. This year, ICAST, as usual, doing an annual international scientific conference where Indonesian Society of Applied Science, or we call ICAST, is the biggest applied science society in Indonesia, is the organizer in coordination with the Indonesian State Polytechnic Director Forum that we call FDPNI, through the heads and staff of Research Center and Community Services and ICAST administrators, where ICAST is a professional association whose membership currently consists of fellow academics from 40 state polytechnic throughout Indonesia. However, it is not limited due to spread its wings as a professional organization that reaches all vocational people globally. It is an elegant journey for ICAST since 3 years back from now. This prestigious conference series has been carried out outside Java. As I told before, in Manado, Bali, Padang, and Samarinda. Hopefully, for the next ICAST will be in Bandung, State Polytechnic of Bandung. This prestigious conference has been carried out outside of Java, and this gives a signal that vocational activities are not only capable of demonstrating hands-on or skill competence, but more than that, is the soft skill in building strong partnership in diversity, in a sincere sense of brotherhood, and with high integrity. However, nevertheless, without full support of the host, especially the director of State Polytechnic of Samarinda, Bapak Ramli STMeng, I expected the interconnection of today event could not run well and smoothly. This year, ICAST has a team is developing innovation and green technology to sustain the economic and social life in a new normal. This team is visualization through 2 scientific tracks, namely engineering and commerce. And the team itself is divided into 2 sub-teams. For engineering, the sub-team is developing innovation and green technology to sustain the economic in the new normal during COVID-19 pandemic. While for the social science, the sub-team is creativity of small business to sustain economy in a new normal during the COVID-19 pandemic. We do hope through the ICAST 2021 is the first to provide promotion for virtually massive scientific event in the form of disseminating international scale research results and international standard national research results in which the outputs will be published in reputable international proceeding. However, by respecting the scale of applied research, I have to highlight this point. However, by respecting the scale of applied research and development as an important indicator of academic vocational people, it is also expected to be able to capture innovation products that are invented in the form of promotion-oriented paper article to the global community as opportunities for downstreaming of applied research and development innovation products. Concretely, secara konkret, there are exciting products, then the products are transformed, become invention, and informed to the public through publication. This kind of vocational soul must be implanted in vocational people. However, as I mentioned before, this event is not limited to Therefore, this year ICAST also provides space for ample scope for basic and similar research in both the fields of engineering and commerce globally. And the second hope is through ICAST 2021 is to provide multiplication of promotion on a virtually ideal platform for discussion, identification, and consultation to lead to an international standard scientific collaboration among vocational people, nature and scientists, practitioners, industry parties, both government and private sectors, development partners, and of course the community. And it is expected to find the right space that meets the color of the vocational higher education that is well established and qualified in supporting of global scientific principles. Finally, the welcome remark for ICAST 2021 for me, and with gratitude on behalf of the ICAST Management College, we expect our deepest gratitude to all parties who have contributed, starting from the preparation stage until today's conference activities went well. Greetings and health always. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adrianus Amheka, for your speech.
It is an honor for State Polytechnic of Samarinda to host the 4th ICAST, a vocational campus which is situated in Borneo and has existed since 34 years ago. This has become so special because in this exact same island that the capital city of Indonesia will be moved to as a substitute for Jakarta. This new capital city program will draw the attention to East Kalimantan. State Polytechnic of Samarinda will not want to be a spectator, but will play a major role in an effort to make this program successfully by creating the best human resource and a wide range of applied technology for our community in East Kalimantan. With our tagline, Center of Green Technology, the following video will give an insight of existence of State Polytechnic of Samarinda for the last 34 years. Let us watch it together, folks.
Samarinda merupakan ibu kota Provinsi Kalimantan Timur. Seluruh wilayahnya berbatasan langsung dengan Kabupaten Kutai Kartanegara. Adanya Sungai Mahakam yang membelah kota ini menjadikan Samarinda mendapat julukan sebagai kota tepian. Hilir mudik lalu lintas kapal menjadi potret pertumbuhan perekonomian Kaltim yang memposisikan Samarinda sebagai kota terbesar di Kalimantan.
Selain kawasan pemerintahan, pemerintah akan membangun kawasan kesehatan, pendidikan, riset, dan inovasi, serta pusat finansial yang akan dilakukan secara bertahap. Menurut Jokowi, lokasi ibu kota baru yang memiliki kontur tanah berbukit justru akan menjadi kelebihan dalam pembangunan ibu kota berkonsep Smart City dan Green City.
Ini bukan hutan alam, apalagi kawasan hutan lindung, enggak yang di sini, enggak.
Seiring dengan hal tersebut, kebutuhan akan sumber daya manusia yang profesional tidak terelakkan lagi.
Politeknik Negeri Samarinda sebagai salah satu perguruan tinggi negeri vokasi di wilayah ini siap mensukseskan Kaltim sebagai IKN dengan mencetak SDM unggul melalui Center of Green Technology.
Politeknik Negeri Samarinda atau disingkat POLNES adalah sebuah perguruan tinggi negeri vokasi yang terletak di kota Samarinda. Polnes memiliki lokasi kampus di Jalan Dr. Cipto Mangunkusumo, Kecamatan Samarinda Seberang dengan luas lahan 10 hektar yang dilengkapi dengan fasilitas gedung direktorat, gedung auditorium, ruang perkuliahan yang nyaman, ruang serbaguna, laboratorium dan bengkel sesuai program studi, gedung perpustakaan dengan koleksi buku dan bahan ajar yang terus diperbaharui, dan gedung penunjang lainnya. Pada awal berdirinya, Polnes hanya memiliki beberapa program studi dengan 5 program studi vokasi. Namun, seiring dengan berjalannya waktu, sekarang Polnes memiliki 10 jurusan dan 25 program studi bergelar Sarjana Sains Terapan dan Ahli Madya. Dengan jumlah mahasiswa Polnes saat ini sudah lebih dari 5.000 orang.
Saya sangat bangga karena bisa masuk ke Politeknik Negeri Samarinda. Karena di antara ribuan siswa yang mendaftar, kamilah yang terpilih. Dan itu menjadi suatu kebanggaan kami. Let's join with us, pursue your best future with Polnes.
Polnes terus meningkatkan kompetensi para dosen melalui keikutsertaannya dalam berbagai pelatihan, seminar, dan workshop yang berskala nasional dan internasional.
Untuk menunjang kegiatan belajar mengajar, Polnes bersama mitra menyediakan beasiswa bagi mahasiswa yang berprestasi maupun kurang mampu.
Polnes terus melengkapi sarana dan prasarana yang memadai guna menunjang pelayanan prima kepada mahasiswa, publik, dan mitra industri. Kami terus menjalin hubungan kerjasama yang lebih luas untuk membangun reputasi institusi dan alumni. Polnes telah berhasil melakukan perjanjian kerjasama dengan Sun Moon University dalam pengembangan kependidikan antar instansi, pertukaran pelajar, staf, profesor, peneliti, dan informasi mengenai bahan ajar.
Adapun kerjasama yang sedang dilaksanakan antara lain dengan University College of Technology Sarawak, UCTS, dan Nanjing Institute of Railway Technology, China, dalam kegiatan Joint Tourism Marketing Summer Course and Community Engagement by Empowering SMEs. UC Institute of Technology China dalam bidang pertukaran informasi, kredit transfer dan pengembangan staf, juga pertukaran mahasiswa. International Center for English Excellence (ICEE) dalam bidang pengembangan berbahasa Inggris, baik mahasiswa maupun dosen.
Di dalam negeri, Polnes juga telah melaksanakan pertukaran mahasiswa melalui program Permata dengan Politeknik Negeri Batam, Politeknik Negeri Sriwijaya, Politeknik Negeri Media Kreatif Jakarta, dan Politeknik Negeri Manufaktur Bangka Belitung.
Dari Direktur Politeknik Negeri Samarinda untuk Wakil Gubernur Kalimantan Timur. Dan selanjutnya
hasil kerja keras Student Career dan Ikatan Keluarga Alumni Polnes berhasil menggelar Job Market Fair dengan peminat yang luar biasa, baik dari penyedia kerja sendiri maupun para pencari kerja. Kami berkembang melalui inovasi-inovasi teknopreneur yang berbasis ilmu pengetahuan dan teknologi terapan untuk kesejahteraan sosial sekaligus menarik perhatian dan pengakuan dunia internasional. Adapun prestasi mahasiswa Politeknik Negeri Samarinda pada tingkat nasional meliputi.
Di tahun 2018, saya bersama tim berhasil memenangkan lomba tingkat nasional yang dilaksanakan oleh PT Trakindo Utama dan kami menjadi juara umum.
untuk menggapai mimpi dan membangun bangsa Indonesia yang berkualitas, sejahtera, dan unggul di tingkat nasional maupun internasional? Mari bergabung bersama kami.
Kenapa saya memilih kuliah di Politeknik Negeri Samarinda? Karena di Polnes ini mempunyai fasilitas yang cukup baik untuk prakteknya sendiri.
Perkenalkan, nama saya Arshad dan di sini senang karena di sini pengalaman banyak dan bisa mengembangkan di Papua sana.
Hello, my name is Sarah Bushi. I'm from America. I'm a teacher in Politeknik Negeri Samarinda.
Jadi tunggu apa lagi?
Kami tunggu kehadiran kalian
di Politeknik Negeri Samarinda.
Let's move to our next item on our agenda. That is the third welcome speech is from Director State Polytechnic of Samarinda that will be represented by Mr. Ahyar Muhammadiyah, SEMM PhD. The amazing stage is yours.
The Excellency, the Governor of East Kalimantan, Dr. Isran Nur, The Excellency, Director General of Vocational Education, Ministry of Education and Culture, Research and Technology of the Republic of Indonesia, Wikan Sakarinto, ST, MSc, PhD. Honorable Head of Education of Culture of East Kalimantan, or Representative Pak Taufik, Honorable Chairman of Indonesia State Polytechnic Director Forum, Dr. Jainal Arif, Honorable Directors from all State Polytechnic in Indonesia, Honorable all Vice Director, all Head of Department, State Polytechnic Samarinda, Honorable Chairman of ICAST, Professor Dr. Adrianus Amheka, Honorable Head of Center Research and Community Service from all State Polytechnic in Indonesia, Honorable Director Bank of Kaltim Tara, Director LNG Badak, keynote speaker, the chairperson and the conference committee, all distinguished guests, all participants, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, please allow me to represent on behalf of Director of State Polytechnic of Samarinda, Mr. Ramli STM, to deliver today's welcoming remark. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My peace be upon you all and good morning. Our deepest gratitude and praises are for God, the Almighty and the most merciful, for blessings He has given to us. So we can come together here to attend this very fruitful and tremendous occasion of the 4th International Conference on Applied Science and Technology through virtual mode due to the COVID pandemic-19 hosted by State Polytechnic of Samarinda. It is my great pleasure to welcome you all this morning to the 4th International Conference on Applied Science and Technology, or we call ICAST 2021. I'd like to thank all speakers, keynote speaker, Professor Peter Shehan from Victoria University, Melbourne, Australia, Professor Dr. Arshad Ahmad from University Technology, Malaysia, UTM, Malaysia, and speaker Dr. Hairuz Zaman, SAMM AK, CA from Bank Kaltim Tara, who have been willing to share knowledge with us in this conference. Also, I'd like to thank to ICAST and FDPNI for collaborating well in organizing this conference. Distinguished guests, speaker, participants, ladies and gentlemen. It is evident that the COVID pandemic has spread with alarming speed, infecting millions of people around the world, increasing the death rate of people, and bringing economic activity to near standstill. In the same time, we also have to create a lot of innovation. So through this event, we can exchange knowledge, ideas, which will eventually lead to research collaboration to answer all global challenges. With regard to this situation, the policy of the State Polytechnic of Samarinda takes a platform for virtual to hold the international conference. The umbrella themes this year conference is developing innovation and green technology to sustain the economic and social life, especially in the post-pandemic recovery. Distinguished guests, speaker, participants, ladies and gentlemen, I really appreciate all delegates and participants who have minutes take part in the conference through virtual modes. I hope that this conference brings some benefits to all participants and contribute to creating the innovation. The fourth international conference on applied science and technology, we hope that it can be a good forum for lecturers, researchers, practitioners to share ideas, recent findings, and best practices in the implementation of innovation and green technology. The success of this conference couldn't have been made possible without any help from many parties. Therefore, I should appreciate the work and dedication and expresses many thanks to them all. I do apologize for any shortcomings and inconveniences which you may find during this conference. Finally, I wish you gained a fruitful and pleasant room and enjoy yourself during this virtual conference. Stay safe and have a great day. A quick word about this conference. We request respectively to Director General of Vocational Education, Wikan Sakarinto, STMC PSD, for the opening speech, and that at the end of which we would also like to kindly request to officially declare the fourth international conference on applied science and technology open straight afterwards. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much to Mr. Ahyar Muhammadiyah.
The next welcome speech is from Chairman of Indonesia Polytechnic Director Forum, Dr. Zainal Arif STMT. Time is yours.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi, salam sejahtera for all of us. A very good morning for all of us. Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, I'm pleased as a chairman of the Director Forum of State Polytechnic in Indonesia to welcome all of you to this event, the fourth International Conference on Applied Science and Technology, or ICAST 2021. The Honorable Director General of Vocational Education, Ministry of Education and Culture, Research and Technology, Bapak Wikan Sakarinto, the Honorable Governor of East Kalimantan, the Honorable Director of Polytechnic Negeri Samarinda, my colleagues, Ramli, and also the Honorable Director of State Polytechnic in Indonesia who attend this important event, and the Honorable the keynote speaker from University Technology Malaysia, and also from Victoria University, and also the honorable all speakers who contribute to this important event, and also all committee who contribute to make this symposium, to make this conference success. Ladies and gentlemen, the theme of this conference is very interesting, which is developing innovation and clean technology to sustain the economic and social life in new normal. This is very important topic for all of us. And I think this will be a good topic for researchers, for scientists, and all lecturers, and the entire engineering community to meet each other and sharing their knowledge, their thoughts, and also their ideas. And so this conference is also provide valuable opportunity for industry specialists and as well as the decision makers to share experience. And these symposiums, this conference will have not been possible without the contributions and hard work of all organizing committee, steering committee, as well as chairpersons, and also keynote speaker and invited speakers, as well as the authors and the reviewers. So allow me in this opportunity to express my sincere gratitude, sincere appreciation to all of you. And also great appreciations to Polytechnic Negeri Samarinda for hosting this conference. But we know we still face situations of COVID-19 pandemic. So, and also following the advice from, I think, from the local authorities, the conference held through hybrid system, online and offline, through the virtual conference. And I would like to encourage the delegates from all polytechnics to participate with an increasing number in all of activities and interesting discussions through this online platform during this conference. I think this conference also the media for all of us, for lecturers, for the researchers to share their idea, their innovations program, and it will become our performance, our kinerja as a lecturer or as researchers. And I'm sure that all of you will have a fruitful and a nice discussion, and we also can exchange knowledge between us through this conference. And thanks to ICAST to keep continuing running annually, because this is very important for us to contribute to our institution as indicator kinerja utama, how to say in English, the key indicator for our institution. So I think this conference is important for all of us. So I wish you have success with this important conference, and I look forward to learning about the outcome, the innovation product, because the Polytechnic must have a specialty in their innovation product as well as the publications. So success to all of you. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
So now we have an amazing performance that is one of the traditional dance from Indonesia, especially is Kalimantan. We call it Tari Enggang, or Hornbill Bird Dance. The Hornbill Bird Dance symbolizes the beautiful nature of Borneo, where State Polytechnic of Samarinda is located. The smoothly flowing dance symbolizes how Polytechnic abilities to adapt to the ever-changing needs and demands facing Polytechnic in this era. So please welcome our best traditional dancer from Yayasan Bina Seni Budaya East Kalimantan. The beautiful stage belongs to you. Tari burung enggang terbang adalah tari yang diilhami dari gerakan-gerakan seekor burung enggang yang sedang terbang dengan mengikuti gerak badannya, sayapnya, ekornya, maupun kepalanya. Tarian ini telah dikreasikan dengan tidak meninggalkan ciri khas aslinya, seperti musik yang mengiringinya, maupun aksesoris yang dipakai dan gerakan-gerakan dasar tarinya. Tarian ini juga melambangkan keanggunan burung enggang yang menjadi simbol perdamaian, persatuan, dan kesatuan masyarakat Dayak. Thank you for the performance. That was very beautiful performance. Let's give a round of applause for them. 4, 2, 1.
The next welcome speech is from Governor of East Kalimantan, Dr. Haji Isran Nur, MSI. Time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera buat kita semua. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan. Yang saya hormati Direktur Jenderal Pendidikan Kejuruan Kementerian Pendidikan dan Kebudayaan dan Riset Republik Indonesia, Ketua Umum ICAST 2021, Ketua ICAST, Direktur Poltek Samarinda, Ketua Umum Direktur Politeknik Indonesia, Bapak, Ibu, Saudara hadirin yang berbahagia. Mengawali sambutan saya ini, marilah kita bersama-sama memanjatkan puji syukur kehadirat Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, Tuhan yang Maha Esa, karena berkat izin dan rahmat-Nya jualah pada hari ini kita masih diberikan nikmat kesehatan sehingga kita dapat mengikuti acara ini dengan baik, yaitu konferensi Politeknik seluruh Indonesia secara online dengan tema Developing Innovation and Green Technology to Sustainable the Economic and Social Life in New Normal, yang kita laksanakan secara online maupun offline dengan tetap mengutamakan protokol kesehatan. Saya sangat menyambut baik serta apresiasi yang setinggi-tingginya kepada Konsorsium Politeknik Indonesia dengan diadakannya penyelenggaraan konferensi ICAST di tahun 2021 ini. Peserta konferensi yang berbahagia, era globalisasi di masa sekarang, kita dihadapkan dengan berbagai isu strategis dan tantangan ke depan, di mana hal ini adalah merupakan persoalan pembangunan yang perlu mendapatkan perhatian khusus. Isu strategis akan menimbulkan dampak yang besar apabila tidak dipersiapkan langkah-langkah strategis sebagai antisipasi terhadap dampak yang mungkin akan ditimbulkan di masa yang akan datang. Namun jika isu strategis dapat diantisipasi dengan baik, maka akan menjadi peluang untuk mewujudkan kesejahteraan suatu wilayah dalam jangka panjang. Dalam konteks pembangunan suatu wilayah atau daerah, maka sangat penting untuk memperhatikan isu strategis yang mengacu pada capaian kinerja daerah. Rencana tata ruang wilayah provinsi, kajian lingkungan hidup strategis, serta isu strategis nasional maupun internasional yang relevan. Beberapa isu strategis nasional maupun internasional antara lain meliputi: yang pertama, kelesuan perekonomian global. Dalam beberapa tahun terakhir, International Monetary Fund atau IMF memperkirakan terjadinya penurunan pertumbuhan ekonomi global. Sesuai dengan laporan Bank Indonesia tahun 2020, ketidakpastian terhadap prospek perdagangan dunia meningkat dan mengakibatkan keyakinan pelaku ekonomi menurun di banyak negara, yang mengakibatkan volume perdagangan dunia terus terkontraksi dalam 2 tahun terakhir. bahkan terendah sejak krisis finansial global. Perkembangan yang kurang menguntungkan tersebut selanjutnya mengakibatkan pertumbuhan ekonomi global melambat secara merata, baik di negara maju maupun di negara-negara sedang berkembang. Yang kedua, perkembangan teknologi informasi dan komunikasi. Perkembangan teknologi komunikasi dan informasi saat ini telah memasuki dukungan terhadap implementasi industri. Dengan ketersediaan teknologi tersebut, kemanfaatan dapat diambil oleh pemerintah karena informasi dapat terdistribusi dan diterima dengan lebih cepat. Ulang ya, terdistribusi dan diterima dengan lebih cepat. Bagi pemerintah Provinsi Kalimantan Timur yang wilayahnya sangat luas dan beberapa wilayah berada di pedalaman dan perbatasan dengan hambatan geografis, teknologi komunikasi dan informasi penting untuk mendukung partisipasi, akuntabilitas, dan transparansi pembangunan daerah. Yang ketiga, pembangunan ekonomi hijau atau green development. Pembangunan ekonomi global saat ini sudah mulai bergeser ke konsep green growth atau pertumbuhan ekonomi hijau yang bukan hanya terkait laju pertumbuhan ekonomi, tetapi juga kualitas pertumbuhan, yaitu pertumbuhan yang memberikan manfaat ekonomi, sosial, dan lingkungan, yang meningkatkan kualitas kehidupan manusia di semua lapisan masyarakat. Yang keempat, perjanjian Paris terkait perubahan iklim, Paris Agreement. Negara-negara di dunia yang tergabung dalam United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change pada pertemuan para pihak ke-21 bulan Desember 2015 yang lalu telah menyepakati perjanjian Paris atau Paris Agreement untuk menjaga ambang batas suhu bumi di bawah 2 derajat Celcius dan berupaya menekan hingga 1,5 derajat Celcius di atas suhu bumi pada masa pra-industri. Peserta konferensi yang berbahagia, dalam konteks dunia pendidikan saat ini kita menghadapi berbagai tantangan dan persoalan di antaranya. Satu, bertambahnya jumlah penduduk yang sangat cepat dan sekaligus bertambahnya keinginan masyarakat untuk mendapatkan pendidikan yang secara kumulatif menuntut ketersediaan sarana pendidikan yang memadai. Dua, berkembangnya ilmu pengetahuan yang modern menghendaki dasar-dasar pendidikan yang kokoh dan penguasaan kemampuan terus-menerus. Dan dengan demikian menuntut pendidikan yang lebih lama sesuai dengan konsep pendidikan seumur hidup atau lifelong education. Berkembangnya teknologi yang mempermudah manusia dalam menguasai dan memanfaatkan alam dan lingkungannya, tetapi yang sering kali ditangani sebagai suatu ancaman terhadap kelestarian peranan manusiawi. Tantangan-tantangan tersebut lebih berat lagi dirasakan karena berbagai persoalan datang, baik dari luar maupun dari dalam sistem pendidikan itu sendiri. Di antaranya, satu, sumber-sumber yang makin terbatas dan belum dimanfaatkannya sumber yang ada secara efektif dan efisien. Dua, sistem pendidikan yang masih lemah dengan tujuan yang masih kabur. kurikulumnya belum serasi atau relevan, suasana belum menarik, dan sebagainya. 3. Pengelolaan pendidikan yang belum mekar dan mantap, serta belum peka terhadap perubahan dan tuntutan keadaan, baik masa kini maupun masa yang akan datang. 4. Masih kabur dan belum mantapnya konsepsi tentang pendidikan dan interpretasinya dalam praktik. Keseluruhan tantangan dan persoalan tersebut memerlukan pemikiran yang mendalam dan pendekatan baru yang progresif. Pendekatan ini harus selalu didahului dengan penjelajahan yang didahului oleh percobaan dan tidak boleh semata-mata atas dasar coba-coba. Gagasan baru sebagai hasil pemikiran kembali haruslah mampu memecahkan persoalan yang tidak terpecahkan hanya dengan cara yang tradisional. Gagasan dan pendekatan baru yang memenuhi ketentuan inilah yang dinamakan inovasi pendidikan. Peserta konferensi yang berbahagia, sebagai penutup, saya mengharapkan agar pertemuan atau konferensi ini dapat bermanfaat bagi semua dalam mewujudkan pembangunan Provinsi Kalimantan Timur yang lebih baik di masa yang akan datang. Demikian, mohon maaf, terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much to Mr. Isran Nur for the welcome speech.
For the following agenda is performance by Eliana Bira. For Eliana Bira, the golden stage is yours.
Remember those words I built? Well, baby, they're tumbling down. They didn't even put a fight. They didn't even make a sound. I found a way to let you in, but I never really had a doubt. Standing in the light of your hello, I got my angel now. It's like I've been awakened. Every rule I had you breaking. It's the risk that I'm taking. I ain't never gonna start you out. Everywhere I'm looking now, I'm surrounded by your embrace. Baby, I can see you, hello. You know you're my saving grace. You're everything I need and more. It's running all over your face. Baby, I can feel you, hello. Pray you won't fade away. Hello, 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 hello. Hit me like a ray of sun, burn into my darkest night. You're the only one that I want. Think I'm addicted to your light. I swore I'd never fall again, but this don't ever feel like falling. Gravity can't forget to pull me back to the ground again. It's like I've been awakened. Every rule I had to break it. It's the risk that I'm taking. I ain't never gonna start you out. Everywhere I'm looking now, I'm surrounded by your embrace. Baby, I can see you, hello. You know you're my saving grace. You're everything I need and more. It's running all over your face. Baby, I can feel you, hello. Pray you won't fade away. Hello, 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 hello. I can feel you, hello, hello. I can see you, hello, hello. I can feel you, hello, everywhere I'm looking now, I'm surrounded by your embrace. Baby, I can see you, hello. You know you're my saving grace. You're everything I need and more. It's running all over your face. Baby, I can feel you, hello. Pray you won't fade away. Hello, 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 hello. I can see you, hello, hello. I can feel you, hello, hello. I can feel you, hello. I can see you, hello, hello.
Thank you for Eliana Bira. So for the next agenda is the welcome speech from General Director of Vocational Education and officially opening ICAST 2021, Mr. Wikan Sakarinto, ST MSc PhD. The time is yours.
Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And very good morning to all ladies and gentlemen. I would like to kindly mention dear Honorable Vice Governor of East Borneo, Pak Hati Mulyati. Secondly, I also would like to mention kindly General Chair of ICAST 2021, Amril Azizah. Chairman of ISS, Professor Adriano Cahemka, Director of State Polytechnic of Samarinda, Pak Ramli, the Chairman of Indonesia Polytechnic Director Forum, Pak Zainal Arif, the Director and CEO PT Badak NGL, Bapak Teten Hadi Rustendi, the Honorable as well President Director of Bank Kaltim Tara, Bapak Muhammad Yamin, representative from Polytechnics, vocational higher education campuses, universities, institutes, and also all the leaders from industries, and to all ladies and gentlemen. Again and again, very good morning and very warm welcome to all of you. First of all, let us praise to the Almighty God. Because of His blessing, we are able to attend this value event, the 4th International Conference on Applied Science and Technology, ICAST 2020, organized by the Indonesian Polytechnics Consortium, which focus on the theme of developing innovations and green technology to sustain the economic and social life in the new normal. And with the keynote speakers of our lectures today, Professor Arshad Ahmad from University of Technology Malaysia, and Professor Peter Sinan from Victoria University, Melbourne, Australia. On behalf of the Minister of Education, Culture, Research and Technology, it's always a great pleasure to welcome you here today to ICAST 2021 here at the Samarinda, East Kalimantan, Indonesia. The prestigious conference will be held in two groups: science, for instance, covering engineering science, ICAST, and social science, ICAST. Both of them aim at bringing together researchers and experts in intelligent technology and social science from educational institutions, R&D industries, government, and the communities to exchange and to share ideas or knowledge through discussions. And I always expect there will be a lot of fruitful discussions at the wide range of issues related to green and model-based technology, developing economy, social life, culture, for globalizations. And also, this international event is held to support the participants, in particular, the higher education in Indonesia and overseas, in developing, strengthening, and enhancing professional education to empower nations' competitiveness. Ladies and gentlemen, currently, human resource development is the main focus of the government of the Republic of Indonesia. Our presidents, Bapak Joko Widodo, keep mentioning and keep instructing the direction to everybody in Indonesia, especially vocational education, takes a very important positions, a significant place to prepare high quality human resource talent for the society. For sure, demographic bonus is the thing that we have to deal with, thing that we have to secure to come up with the power, to come up with the strength of Indonesia and also to the world. The directions of our president is, I think, quite clear, that the focus of the current government is to form eminent human resource, and the minister has also given directions that Merdeka Belajar policy, which until today has reached the 13 episodes, as well as the other programs, are solely our intention to open up better learning space, and so we can continue to refine them for students, for all academic society throughout the Indonesia, including opening up space for collaboration with the world of work. If we want to see the future Indonesian nation compete in the global arena and present young leaders who bring this nation forward, it's necessary today to direct educations that prioritize human development that has strengths in the soft skills aspect. I want to mention again soft skills and characters of the human resource. Of course, with the balance of hard skills. That's the thing that we have to keep in mind, as well as the character of integrity of the human. I believe with the strong soft skills facilitated by Merdeka Belajar and Campus Merdeka policy, students will have space, will have opportunity for self-actualization from the beginning, including collaborative classes, project-based learning, internship, and other forms of appropriate links so they can think, contemplate how they orient their career and future from the start, of course, with their passions and talent. So passions takes significant place. We from Directorate General of Vocational Education carries big missions, very important missions to realize what's so-called link and match between vocational education and industries or workplace to prepare high-quality human resource of Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, as we know that we will reach the demographic bonus, as I mentioned previously, in around 2030 or 2040, I would say that's the golden years of Indonesia, where the population will be dominated by the working age generations. This means that we must seriously prepare to improve the capacity of our human resource massively in order to gain the benefit of the demographic bonus, as well as to prepare for job opportunity in the futures. Vocational education that aims to create skills human resource play significant and very important role. and becomes one of the government's priorities to be improved, to be strengthened, and especially to face the challenge of Industrial Revolution 4.0. Of course, that demand us, always and always, that demand us to keep up with the current technology. The Ministry of Education, Culture, Research and Technology has officially strategic plan to improve the quality of vocational education in Indonesia. One of them is by involving industries and our potential partners in the learning process, from the beginning up to the finish, up to the end phase, either preparing for working in industry or developing the entrepreneurship skills. In the context of vocational education, our policy is to support, to prepare skilled human resource through the development cooperation between vocational education and the world. Sorry, I mean the industries. This collaboration is certainly not only in MU level. So this should be implemented into the real activities carried out to all stages of education. So not only MOU signing. The development of cooperation through the partnership with the world, with the industries, is carried out to ensure the harmony between vocational graduates and graduate users. Even more so, at this time, we encourage them to become entrepreneurship. I would like to mention all the time, not only to provide workers, but we have to think of that. We should more focus on how to create entrepreneurs. The involvement of industries in this aspect of education is, of course, very important. Starting with the initiative of vocational education, that conducive partnership to be built, which is encouraged by our system, what so-called link and match, 8+I. Link and match that cover at least 8 aspects, even more. So through this link and match concept of 8+I, from the beginning, students will have their horizon of open mind, how to picture in the world, how to picture how the workplace, industries, professional atmospheres, and abilities they are in line with work needs will be initiated from the beginning of the study. So we have to be able to convince that the students who start pursuing study in the vocational education, they should be confident with their passion and their dream. So they know why they are pursuing study for the future in education, in vocational education. We involve the industries or workplace in all aspects of implementation of the vocational education aspects. So all things in vocational education should be done together with industry. Starting from the preparation of curriculum, that's one thing. And we have to define the competency certifications. And also we have to provide and we have to prepare the internship program all together with industries. So it has to be in line according to the standard of the industries. Internship not only for students but also for lecturers, teachers, and even more professors. So they have to be fresh. Maybe once in 4 years, they have to go for internship in industries. So bringing industry into the schools, bringing industry to the class. So we have to do those things. And more importantly, we have to be bringing many experts from industries into the class to teach regularly the students. Applied research should be based on the real needs from industry or workplace. So applied research should come up with the real product, not only papers. Papers, it's fine, but without product, then it's going to be not so much use for Indonesia. So we have to be confirm that research should start from the real needs from the workplace or from the society and should come up with a real product and to be delivered to the society or to the market. So that's the basic approach of applied research in our vocational higher educations. So those are the things that we have to be confirmed that should be implemented within the concept of link and match. Regarding the contributions of applied research to the industrial development, it is hoped that the activity will emerge from this conference. So I would like to say, firstly, applied vocational research should be demand-driven. That's one thing that we have to be sure. Up to now, we still have to continue to develop a research scheme that is not only into more intellectual explorations of the researchers, but research should be designed from the researchers' struggle with the real problem happening in industry. Micro, small, medium enterprise, or UMKM, and society, and through this applied research program, we want to build a research tradition that is demand-driven. This applied research is the real implementation of the link and match, which is an effort to make vocational education relevant and even strengthen industrial development and accelerate the society change due to rapid technology advance. We also need to encourage applied research so that it can be multidisciplinary. So not only one discipline, but should be multidisciplinary and should be based on collaborations among disciplines. That's what so-called the applied research, how it works. The proposer of the applied research must build synergy between multidisciplinary vocational lectures and researchers and must involve students. Yes, for sure, students should be involved. And which is also very important, it should cooperate with the industrial partner as soon as possible, since the beginning. So when we come up with an idea and then we start to propose, start conducting research from the beginning, but as soon as possible, we have to cooperate with the industry partners who will do the mass productions at the end phase. With this demand-driven concept research, applied vocational scientific research will provide real benefits for industry in particular and society in general. For example, to practically increase the production capacity of industry or to provide solutions that the level scheme from strengthening social welfare. So this is where the real contribution of vocational education will emerge in providing solutions for Indonesia. And this is our common goal, to present vocational studies with research that provide real benefit of industrial progress in improving the people economies and strengthening social welfare. This program also built an ecosystem between vocational and workplace industry so they can collaborate to come up with the initiative to find solutions with technological innovation for advanced Indonesia. And as for the regulations, now we are in the middle of improving the regulations for promotions, for teachers and researchers. So as for Tridharma, the second Tridharma is research. We do not consider any longer that the secondary Dharma research should be based on papers, but the regulations will be officially demanding that the researchers should come up with the real product, with the real beneficial, strong use for the society and for the people. So it's officially written like that in our draft. So just please wait for maybe a couple of weeks or a couple of months. I do hope that we will soon can release officially the regulations. So, ladies and gentlemen, I do not want to take much of your time, so let's take this opportunity as a big step for further strengthening link and match between the schools, vocational educations, and industries, both locally and globally. I also would like to remind all of you that the papers and research result produced from this vocational education must must come up with the product oriented. Don't stop until scientific publication. Do not stop on the phase of publication, but must be further proceed and implemented into manufacturing product to the market, prototypes, not only prototype that put in the workshop, but should be implemented and should be delivered into the society or to the market. So we from Kemendikbudristek, the Ministry of Education, should continue. We shall continue to strive to provide policy support that encourage the participation of industrial partners, international partners, and all entities in the workplace to participate in the provision of education in the spirit of Merdeka Belajar Kampus Merdeka. I personally, and as an institution, really appreciate the presence of the 4th International Conference on Applied Science and Technology, ICAST 2021. Hopefully, in the future, international activities and global collaboration and cooperation to advance vocational education will increase, and there will be more concrete and match implementations. I mentioned 8+9 link and match. And so, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your participation and also for your contributions. I would like to wish you all a very successful program. I do hope that we'll be able to make this into a better world and global community. We hope we are successful in our work for the prosperity and well-being for our people. And I hope we can make ourselves to survive during the pandemic. And I hope the pandemic will be just near end. I hope. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Om Santi 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 Om.
Thank you to Mr. Wikan, who gave a lot of inspiration to all of us. We have a great desire to make vocational education victorious, make Indonesia prosperous. I hope that this year's ICAST will be the rope that strengthens the marriage bond between higher vocational education and the world of industry and applied technology in society. And thus, the opening ceremony of the 4th ICAST 2021. And we will soon enter into the new session.
We, as the master ceremony, resign for a moment because there will be a coffee break. After that, the next session of the event will be guided by Mr. Jabi Parlindungan Fangide, PhD. We take a break for about a few minutes. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Assalatu wassalamu ala asrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'du. The Honorable, our keynote speakers, the Honorable, the Director of State Polytechnic of Samarinda, the Director of State Polytechnic of Nunukan, the heads of departments, and all our valuable presenters and distinguished guests. My name is Andri Kurniawan, and today I'm going to be your moderator for today's session. It is with great pleasure that at this moment we are honored by the presence of our keynote speakers. And our first speaker are going to be Dr. Khoiruzaman, SAMM, AKCA. Mr. Khoiruzaman was born in Balikpapan, 9th of June, 1966. And at the moment, he is the director of Bank Kaltim Tara. He graduated from Magister Management from Mulorman University and also graduated from doctoral degree in management in Mulorman University as well. Mr. Khoiruzaman, time is yours.
Masih Pak Kurniawan. Boleh saya pakai bahasa Indonesia aja, Pak?
Please do.
Baik, makasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi, salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan, salam sehat semua. Serta narasumber yang hadir di acara virtual International Conference Applied, saya Teknologi Samarinda, ICAST 2021. Pertama-tama saya mengucapkan terima kasih kepada penyelenggara atas kehormatan yang diberikan kepada kami untuk mendelivery sharing. Tentunya kalau untuk pertandingan ini saya juga akan sedikit mengenai isu-isu terkini ya untuk perbankan, terutama di era pandemi ini. Yang saya hormati Bapak Gubernur Kalimantan Timur, Mr. Dr. Isra Nur, MSI, Ahmad Direktur Politeknik di Samarinda, saudara saya, Mr. Ramli SMJ, seluruh narasumber, keynote speaker, Profesor Arshad Ahmad, Profesor Dr. Arshad Ahmad dari University Teknologi Malaysia, Mr. Professor Shehan from Victoria University, Melbourne, Australia, seluruh serta hadirin yang subhanallah sangat banyak jumlahnya nih, 330. Saya merasa gembira dan bangga mengikuti acara konferensi internasional ini yang untuk pertama kalinya saya ikuti dengan jumlah peserta terbanyak saya kira. Selamat buat rekan-rekan Poltek Indonesia yang berhasil didesain acara ini sehingga menjadi acara yang sangat menarik. Semoga acara ini nantinya bisa berjalan lancar dan menjadi kenangan bagi seluruh peserta. Jadi satu pengalaman yang luar biasa saya kira ini. Baik Bapak Ibu seluruh peserta, mohon izin saya ingin menyampaikannya dalam bahasa Indonesia. Sebenarnya materinya sudah ada. Materinya saya akan kirim ke panitia yang sebenarnya dianggap bermanfaat, bisa dimintakan lagi teman-teman di panitia. Ya, di dalam masa pandemi ini, terutama di disruption era saat ini ya, dikatakan juga era VUCA, karena pergerakan manusia, segmen bisnis ekonomi dan seluruh segmen usaha, kegiatan-kegiatan gerakannya sangat cepat, sangat volatil, kemudian penuh ketidakpastian kondisi saat ini, uncertainty, lalu komplit dan ambigu, penuh ketidakpastian. Apalagi di saat pandemi yang sudah berjalan kurang lebih 2 tahun ini, kita semua dipaksa untuk berperilaku dengan new normal style. Normal yang baru ini ya memang sangat kita rasakan, terutama bagi teman-teman yang sudah berkeluarga, yang selama ini memiliki putra putri misalkan yang bersekolah secara online, kemudian tiba-tiba terakhir-terakhir ini pemerintah memperkenankan untuk dilakukan pembelajaran secara offline. Bagi saya sih dengan teman-teman ya di lingkungan saya terutama, ini dirasakan tidak normal, yang tadinya sudah terbiasa online tiba-tiba harus mengantar anak sekolah, menemani teman-teman anak-anak kita itu di sekolah. Jadi normal yang sekarang ini memang terasa beda. Begitu juga di sistem keuangan ekonomi pemerintah dan korporasi, semuanya bergerak melakukan terjadi beberapa perubahan yang sangat mendasar, terutama ya, transformasi digital yang usernya itu banyak kan ya kaum milenial. Ya kaum milenial ini kan sebagaimana kita ketahui adalah ya para mahasiswa-mahasiswi yang ada di perguruan tinggi, misalkan di Politeknik. Saya kira masalah perilaku ini juga perlu menjadi satu perhatian bagi perguruan tinggi Indonesia, ada melakukan pembinaan kepada mahasiswa-mahasiswi. Sehingga diharapkan nantinya pada saat mereka sudah siap untuk terjun ke masyarakat setelah menjadi alumni, mereka sudah mendapatkan suatu gambaran strategi di masyarakat, bermasyarakat yang didesain kurikulumnya oleh perguruan tinggi seperti Politeknik. Tapi bicara masalah ilmu dan teknologi dilakukan konferensi saat ini oleh Politeknik Indonesia sebanyak 44, kurang lebih saya baca datanya itu. Jadi satu hal yang sangat menarik. Ya kalau di perbankan sendiri sekarang ini ya transaksi keuangan ya sudah tidak menggunakan lagi apa yang disebut dengan transaksi tunai. Semua sudah menggunakan transaksi non tunai, cashless semua. Kemudian di kehidupan masyarakat dan rumah tangga juga sekarang ini e-commerce, kemudian marketplace itu sudah menjadi hal yang mainstream bagi kita semua. di lingkungan keluarga kita sendiri, misalkan mereka belanja sudah tidak menggunakan, sudah tidak menuju ke lagi secara normal seperti biasa, tapi sudah menggunakan gadget-gadget melalui infrastruktur teknologi. Nah, ini yang harus juga menjadi satu bahasan bagaimana teknologi yang kita manfaatkan ini bisa menjadi teknologi yang lebih murah dan efisien, yang bisa dimanfaatkan oleh seluruh masyarakat, para stakeholder yang mengalami masa-masa shifting dari kondisi sebelumnya menjadi kondisi new normal yang kita rasakan saat ini. Ya, saya ingin sedikit mempromosikan juga ya, perbankan ini tidak terlepas daripada transaksi seperti ini. Yang dulu layanan menggunakan people, layanan melalui customer service yang berbasis. Tapi sekarang sudah mulai ditinggalkan. Jadi bank sudah tidak sensitif lagi, masyarakat sudah tidak sensitif lagi dengan layanan-layanan secara fisik, walaupun pada keuangan bank sudah berusaha memberikan satu layanan yang menarik seperti layanan-layanan sebelumnya, yang kemudian ya main mohon bentuk fisik daripada bangunan-bangunan yang itu dari kantor perbankan itu tahun akan ditinggalkan karena perbankan ke depan sudah menggunakan teknologi, bahkan membutuhkan kantor lagi seperti halnya yang dilakukan oleh bank digital seperti Bank Jago, Bank yang sampai saat ini memiliki kantor pusat dan layanan-layanan tidak memerlukan kantor cabang layanan dengan yang omset masalah luar biasa, melebihi dari bank-bank yang beraset besar. Mereka dengan aset yang sedikit tapi mampu meningkatkan return on equity on asetnya itu berkali-kali lipat. Nah, jadi ini salah satu hal yang menarik di kondisi dunia usaha saat ini. Nah, kami juga dari perbankan tentunya telah mengantisipasi kondisi-kondisi seperti sekarang ini dengan memanfaatkan transaksi BDR. Kami juga sudah mengikuti apa yang dinamakan transaksi QRIS, menggunakan barcode untuk sistem pembayaran, produk-produk yang dinamakan akun negara, digibank negara, digikris. Ternyata walaupun bank daerah, tapi kita pelayanan masyarakat itu memiliki ya sudah berbasis teknologi, dan sekarang ini juga menjadi salah satu pengembangan nasional seperti Pemda dan Pemda. Itu juga kita sudah menggunakan alat transaksi elektronik yang seperti e-samsat dan e-parkir. Jadi parkir itu sudah menggunakan transaksi elektronik, sudah menggunakan QR code, menggunakan kris, dan masih banyak lagi pembayaran PBB, misalkan pembayaran e-samsat untuk membayar pajak dan mobil dan lain sebagainya. Saya kira perkembangan teknologi dunia usaha pun oleh perguruan tinggi dia perlu dipantau dan dilakukan penyesuaian terhadap kurikulum perguruan tinggi yang sekarang ini kan sudah perguruan tinggi yang modern, menghadapi rencana Kaltim ini menjadi ibu kota negara. Samarinda misalkan yang menjadi tetangga dari ibu kota negara sebagai kota penyangganya juga dari sisi teknologi, transportasinya ya perlu menjadi perhatian utama. Saya kira sebetulnya banyak yang dilihat dan namun sebagai umpan ya, sebagai umpan menjadi bahan diskusi, saya juga bersedia untuk mendiskusi selanjutnya karena waktu yang cukup terbatas dengan adanya keynote speaker yang lain yang perlu mendapatkan kesempatan di dalam penyajian materi pada kali ini. Saya kira untuk bahan-bahan yang telah saya susun ini akan saya share ke teman-teman di panitia. Kalau seandainya partisipan ini butuhkan, silakan hubungi panitia. Saya kira demikian. Mohon maaf kalau seandainya ada hal yang kurang berkenan. Saya mohon maaf. Terima kasih atas kesempatannya Pak Moderator yang telah diberikan kepada kami. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Santi Om. Selamat pagi, salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Terima kasih.
Thank you very much for Mr. Khairuzaman. And unfortunately, due to the limited time, we couldn't open question and answer session for this first presentation. And we would like to move right to the first keynote speakers. This is the time that we've been all waiting for. And for the first opportunity, we would like to introduce our first keynote speaker, Professor Arshad Ahmad, PhD. Professor Dr. Arshad Ahmad is a professor at School of Chemical and Energy Engineering, and he has been a director of Institute of Future Energy at University Technology Malaysia from 2015 to present. Professor Dr. Arshad Ahmad graduated from a prestigious Newcastle upon Tyne University to obtain his Doctor of Philosophy degree in Chemical Engineering. In addition to this, he also has 30 years of experience in teaching both graduate and undergraduate students. He is, at the moment, has professional affiliation as Vice President, Malaysian Association of Hydrogen Energy, member in Malaysian Association of Scientists, Engineers and Technologists, members also in Association of Muslim Scientists, and registered to Board of Engineers, Malaysia. As far as his publication is concerned, Professor Arshad Ahmad has Scopus H index of 20, Scopus citation of 1,707, Scopus index publication of 130, and many more important achievements from Professor Arshad Ahmad, which would take me the whole day to read it for you guys. And without further ado, I proudly present to you Professor Dr. Arshad Ahmad with his keynote speech with the title, Addressing Life Challenges Through Risk Management. To Professor Arshad Ahmad, the virtual stage is yours.
Oh, sorry, I was mute just now. So, is it okay now?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You're audible.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih Banyak-banyak terima kasih kepada pengerusi majlis yang saya hormati, Bapak Direktur Politeknik Samarinda, pengerusi panitia ICAST, distinguished guests, fellow speakers, ladies and gentlemen. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin, wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajmain. I hope the connection will be okay throughout the talk. So what I'm going to talk about is something more generic. So there is an echo, but I'll go ahead. Something more generic that can be understood by everybody. Okay, although I've been talking mostly on energy, but and also process control, which is my specialization, and also process safety. But today I'm going to talk about risk and something that is more relevant to what we are facing today, especially when we are still in the midst of struggling with COVID-19. So let's talk about risk. So that my slide is jammed. Oh. Okay. The content of my talk will be first part, an overview, feeling safe, and then I will define risk and risk management, and I put two case studies, one based on our previous study on the chemical industry, one is a quick assessment, just a very quick assessment on COVID-19 and my conclusion. Okay, now everybody likes to feel safe, okay? We wish to have a safe haven where we will be comfortable in life, healthy, well-to-do in terms of finance, good in terms of family, happy, whether it be at home or at work. So everybody wants to find a safe haven. But when we look at the scenario, the reality that is happening, okay, we had, for example, the Piper Alpha explosion for those who were working in the oil platform in 1988. And even the sugar manufacturing plant can explode, killing 14 people. And then as people go to work in Tokyo in one day, 12 were dead because of sarin gas released due to terrorism during rush hour in the Tokyo subway. So life goes on as usual, but some people were killed when they were trying to earn a living. Okay. And when we travel to go for holiday, some people were also killed. The sad ending of late MH17, which killed 298 people, and the Korea ferry incident, also around 300 people, and also people traveling by train. Train is basically seen as the safest mode of transport. But still, even with the safest mode of transport, people can get killed. So there is also always a risk. And when you say stay at home, some people were killed in Bhopal due to toxic gases entering their windows, and they were asleep, and some never even woke up after going to sleep. And there were a very rare incident in La Megantic in 2013 where the train derailed into the town and exploded and flattened buildings and killed people. And you know very well about what happened in the Indian Ocean tsunami. In terms of finance, we have seen a company as old as General Motors and the Lehman Brothers, both basically more than 100 years or 100 years or more in terms of establishment, very, very stable, very established company. But when something bad happened, even these two big companies, large conglomerates, can go bankrupt. They file for bankruptcy and getting bankruptcy protection according to the law in the United States. So it happened. So in the end, when we look at the situation, one thing that we can consider, we can conclude is that there is no such thing called a safe haven. I'm not safe after all, says that particular guy, sitting, thinking about what is best to do next. Okay, now, moving to my next topic. Let me define risk as the likelihood times severity. We have seen just now, whether you stay at home, whether you go to work, whether you travel, there is always a risk. Even if you work in a very established company, there's also still have a risk of losing a job. So the risk is basically what is something called likelihood, the probability of occurrence. We multiply by the severity. How bad is going to be? How large is the impact? How severe is the result? So when you multiply the likelihood with severity, and we have the risk. In the form, normally we establish the risk in the form of the impact, let's say fatality per year. How many people die in a particular year, for example, or how many dollars lost in a year. Based on that, we can establish insurance and so on. Okay, so if we want to reduce the risk, we need to reduce severity or the likelihood or both. We cannot eliminate risk. There is always a risk. Okay, there is always a risk everywhere you go. It impacts various different perspectives of our life. So we can only manage. We manage it by reducing the severity, or we reduce the likelihood if we can, or reduce both if we can. Okay. Now, when we look at risk in various perspectives, in anything that happen, okay, there is loss of life, potential loss of life, and then the health impact, loss of income, loss of business opportunity, loss of reputation, which will in the end impact also the business, environmental damage, and cost to fix the environmental problem that has been, for example, we remember the Deepwater Horizon oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico, for example, how much amount of money has to be spent in order to fix the environment. Even then, we cannot fix it as if it never happened. There's always be a residual risk, the permanent impact that causing damage to the environment when after something bad that has been happening. So when we sum up all these risks together, before we make any decision on risk, we have to add them together. Risk is basically loss of life, plus health impact, plus loss of income, plus loss of business opportunity, plus, depending on the scenario, you may have 5, 6, or 7 perspectives that we have to deal with. But in the end, we have to add them together in a common unit, a single currency. Normally, we translate that in the form of dollars, finance. And then there will be controversial decision to be made. For example, how can we equate one life to how many dollars, for example? So something has to be decided, and the organization will decide how much is the value of one life, and then they will add everything together and come up with the value of severity. Then we multiply that severity with the probability of occurrence, then we have the risk. Based on that risk, insurance company decide how much premium they're going to charge, and the employer will decide how much protection they want to provide for the workers, and so on. And regulator will decide whether to approve a project with certain number of risks, and so forth and so on. So that we have to consider the risk in a complete manner, which is basically covering all aspects. Okay, to look at the scenario, we can look, for example, in the form of bow tie. Bow tie diagram is basically when you put at the center there, loss event here at the center, which is the red color. Okay, if this is the unwanted event, on the left-hand side, there is something called preventive measure. P11, P12, P31, P32, and so forth and so on. And on the right-hand side is the mitigative measure. Mitigative measure is to reduce the impact after it had happened. Preventive measure is to reduce the likelihood and also the potential impact before it happened. So we have to make it balanced. Some people would prefer to have more preventive measures. Some people might prefer more to have more of mitigative measure. But normally, a balanced one will suit the general situation better. Imagine in management, for example. Imagine in management, for example. Oh, sorry. If we have so many preventive measures, then basically we have a very bureaucratic process. If we have less bureaucracy, then perhaps we need to provide a bigger impact or a stronger measure in terms of rewards and punishment. Somebody who do well, we reward, and somebody who do bad, we punish more significantly. Then we can have less preventive measure. If we want to have some people like to have more preventive measure, so that they don't have to have more mitigative measures. So it is a balance. For example, when we look at a car, causes of hazard can be poor visibility, slippery road, punctured tire, driver asleep, and so on. So we have a preventive measure in a car. For example, car system and car stability system, traction control, stability control, ABS, car maintenance, behavioral of the driver, either active or passive. And after the car has been lost of control, there will be airbags to protect, impact bar to protect, and so on. So in a modern car, you will have a lot of preventive measure in addition to the corrective measure. So if you buy a car, perhaps you need to consider both. Don't just be stunned or attracted to the so many airbags. Airbag is not useful, not that useful in a sense, because in the first place, we would like to prevent accident. To prevent accident, we need the preventive measure. After the accident, then only we consider the corrective measure. So that's one perspective of thinking. Some people may not agree. Okay. Now let me introduce to you our case study. That we have done. When we look at the case of petrochemical or chemical industry, for example, we made a study on an old or aging facilities in Malaysia. Okay, we look at the hazard of chemical industry. That is a toxic release that has caused bhopal, for example, something that is unwanted. And there is fire, there is explosion that can also cause damage to the facility and killing the surrounding people and also impacting the surrounding. And there's also radiation. Okay, and when we look at the risk management initiative, some are preventive, some are corrective, or some are mitigative. Okay, we start with before the plant is constructed, there is a land use policy from government. Anywhere, everywhere in the world, there are similar policies. Okay, in Indonesia, maybe there is certain legislation. In Malaysia, there is certain legislation. So before the plant is constructed, we have to conduct a risk assessment. Then we decide whether it is allowed to be constructed or not. I had quite a long experience in this, and there are so many practical issues relating to this. Okay, and then there is process plan, design and construction. So basically, when we talk about design and construction, there are standards, there are codes, there are a lot of design consideration that has to be abide by the designer and the design team and the project team. Okay, and then when the plant is operating, okay, there are also other rules. For example, in Malaysia, we still use our Factory and Machinery Act, although many countries are moving towards combining them together with Occupational Safety and Health Act, like in many different countries. So we are in the process of merging the two. Okay, there are fitness assessment, pressure vessels, boilers, and furnace need to be certified to be fit to operate. Otherwise, in every 18 months, the plant will be asked to shut down and do the inspection. Then, as the technology improved, the government introduced something called special scheme inspection, regulation which allow the plant to be extended in terms of operating. So they don't have to shut down every 18 months. They can shut down up to maximum of 5 years, for example, or 6 years, the SSI regulation. But they have to prove that the plant has a reasonable residual life to operate and still fit to operate. So there are many technical considerations that has to be made before that decision can be made by the regulator. Okay. At the land use policy, we have this threshold value or a limit of 1 in a million deaths per year. 1 in a million deaths per year is basically legislation, a number that is used almost everywhere in the world except in Netherlands, where Netherlands is a bit more stringent. Okay, the rest of the world is basically taking 1 in a million as a risk that is tolerable by the community. That means that if you build a refinery in your neighborhood and the refinery introduces an additional risk to your life, the number is 1 in a million, then basically the refinery is okay and can be allowed to operate, to be built. If it is, for example, 1 in 10,000, then it shouldn't be allowed to operate. If it is in between, then there are rooms to discuss and to negotiate, to consider which one is more important. Can we tolerate a higher risk because the refinery is very important for this community as it supplies diesel, gasoline, and so on, needed by the community. Without it, the economy will suffer significantly. So the legislator, together with the industry, together with the community, will have to sit down and decide whether to tolerate higher risk or not. That is the concept that we call alarm. Alarm is basically introduced in the UK based on a particular legal suit. Okay, then we come up with this particular value. If it is below 1 in a million, for example, in the residential, then it will be broadly acceptable. We accept as it is. If it is bigger than 1 in 10,000, for example, then we cannot tolerate. In certain country, 1 in 1,000 as the red line. But in between, there are rooms to discuss. So somebody asked me, why is 1 in a million? So 1 in a million is basically the risk that you suffer when you stay at home and you can be killed by electrocution. The risk of dying electrocuted at home is 1 in a million on average. So that's why 1 in a million is used as the lowest value. Anything lower than that is considered acceptable. Now, but process plant, although we have built according to the codes and standard, and we have considered the original risk, but the original risk at plant startup, that means that it has complied with the risk assessment for land use purpose, and also it has complied with the specific design standard and codes, then the plant is started. As the plant is started, risk is basically increased because risk is not static. Risk is always increasing. So because of that, risk must be managed. Okay, it must be managed by the operator, the company that operates the plant, through something called process safety management. There are many different terminologies used based on which legislation that we are referring to. Process safety management is becoming more common, although it originates from the US, and the legislation in Malaysia, for example, is more akin to the one in UK, which is COMA, Control of Major Hazard. But now in the industry, we tend to use process safety management as something we take as a common terminology. So basically, in order to push the red line as low as possible, if possible, we want to bring it down as the same as the original situation, but we can never do that. The best kind of industry that can do that is basically power plant, because the major equipment in the power plant is basically replaced once it reached the life. The turbine is replaced, so there is no repairing or fixing like in pressure vessel, in process industry, and so on. So, but then in power plant, they have still cabling. They don't replace cabling every time the life ended. So cabling may be continued and the turbine is maintained. So, but anyway, they can reduce the rate line lower, can push it slightly lower more than the chemical plant, for example. Okay, and then to operate, there are many different facilities. Those in chemical engineering will understand that there are process design, process control, then there is alarm, there is safety instrumented system, and there are several different protection or mitigating measures to prevent people from suffering, and then also there's emergency response and evacuation to run away from the problem. So the plant is equipped with all these facilities, okay, in order to make it safer and more reliable, and most importantly to the company, probably to make it smooth running without interruption, without shutdown, and producing good product. Then the plant is maintained through many different predictive, reactive, proactive, and preventive maintenance scheme, which I will skip for time's sake. Okay, this is basically managed through within the perspective of process safety management. Then there are also people impact of workers. The company has to have good safety culture. If we want to establish safety in the process plant, to me, based on my observation, safety culture is perhaps one of the most important items, because complying with all the mechanical integrity requirement and so on can be easier, but complying with a good safety culture can be difficult depending on the consistency and policy of the company. So combining the three, basically the original assessment of risk, and then the operation, maintaining the operation, and also establishing good safety culture, the human aspect, then we anticipate that the plant will be in good shape. Then to evaluate this, we made a study in the period of 2016 and 2017. I was engaged by the regulator, Department of Occupational Safety and Health of Malaysia, to make an assessment of 145 process plants and power plant with 20 years and older, to see how the older plant doing, whether they are okay or not. So we made on-site interview. So I traveled with my team throughout Malaysia, okay, interview the workers and also the management, and we made observation and we verify their documents, their maintenance document and records and so on. Then we come up with a conclusion. We made an assessment using certain characteristic or criteria, and finally we can see the spread. If you look at the way we did it, we divide the aspect into policy item, organizing and planning and implementation, monitoring, audit, review, and we develop a process safety management index. Okay, if the index is 1, means the company is perfect. If the index is 0, means the company is in a very terrible shape. Okay, these are basically companies 20 years and older out of that 145. Okay, we see at the top most here on the right hand side, the cluster at the higher end are mostly power plants, because power plant in Malaysia is managed by mostly, a majority of the power plant managed by one big conglomerate called Tenaga Nasional Berhad, and they are certified for asset integrity management ISO, and they have the program, so the power plant sits at the very top. Then we have the petrochemical plant, large conglomerate also, Shell, Petronas, Petron, and various different petrochemical company. And then we have the other chemical company, and the lower end here is normally mostly storage facilities. So we can see the spread. Out of 143, each bubble is one company, and we can see they are located. Some are strong in certain aspect, some are strong in a different aspect. There is one which is consistently bad, okay, and the overall score is also bad, the lowest. And there are few which is consistently high and score highest. So finally, we discussed this with the regulator and to plan what to do next in order to improve the safety standard of the industry in Malaysia. Okay. The issues that we saw is that complex plant versus simple plant. Complex plant is very difficult to manage, so require a lot of different things. Simple plant are easier to manage, but because of them being simple, people tend to be relaxed. And finally, perhaps the worst of all is the simple plant. Okay, then large versus small plant. Large plant, normally people are a bit scared or probably more cautious. So they have a better safety management, and the smaller one tend to be relaxed, but it doesn't necessarily be true in all cases. And large corporation versus small and medium enterprise. Some small and medium enterprise operates a facility like a tank farm, and they feel that since they don't have large capital, they don't have to do certain things. But since they deal with major hazard item, they should be asked to do so. So there are some gaps there. And then the most difficult of all is the rented facility. For example, a port owns the storage area and it rent it out to company, and the company renting it. So if there is there was an incident and an explosion, and they start blaming each other. The operator blame the owner blame the operator, and it goes into court, for example, to settle. So there are these issues to be handled in order to make sure that process plant is okay. So this is basically our observation, that we have come with a recommendation to the authority. And based on the study that we have done in the span of 1 year, the biggest conclusion that we can make is that, in general, the process plant are managed reasonably well. However, there are some misunderstanding in terms of whose rights, who should be doing, and then whether to enforce certain requirement or not. Because, for example, there are items like risk-based inspection to inspect the life of your equipment even before it break down. It costs money, and whether to impose that. So that's some of the questions that we have been talking about, and what to impose and what not to impose, and so on. Then the second case study, okay, the second case study that I want to look with only one slide here, okay, because I'm coming to the end. I hope my time is okay. Again, risk is likelihood times severity. Let's evaluate COVID-19. Okay, we know that risk is loss of life, loss of income, loss of mitigation, cost of mitigation, opportunity loss, repeatable loss, damage due to societal impact, and so on, and so forth, and so on. There are so many. Some people, let's say people from the medical fraternity, perhaps look at the loss of life being the most important item when we talk about risk assessment in dealing with COVID-19. They talk about how many new cases, how many deaths, and how many recovery, and then they blow up the number of fatality, because everybody understood that fatality is not something that we like. Somebody dear to us affected and die. So some of us has lost relatives, okay, due to COVID-19. We feel sad, but at the same time, if we look comprehensively, there is also loss of income, loss of jobs, loss of business are shut down. It causes damage in terms of income, but it can also cause damage in terms of other things. It may be increase of crime rates and may end up with a fatality. Somebody get killed, crime, and so on. And also cost of mitigation. How much the government has to spend in order to maintain the economy so the economy can float again and the people can survive. What kind of assistance the government needs to provide in order for the community to continue operating or maintain the minimum standard of living. So you add them together, and the potential business loss, we have already settled certain contract, and then suddenly because of a certain requirement that is too stringent, some company perhaps move to another country that is less stringent. So it costs money, and also basically it costs on the overall risk to the or damage to the country. So in order to decide in more balanced and comprehensive manner, it is difficult. We have to understand, we have to accept that it is difficult. However, it is something that we have to do. We cannot be biased on certain number and so on. So we look at an example. Okay, lockdown approach. We look at China with a very stringent lockdown, the Wuhan area, Hubei and so on, with a very with military, okay, and they managed to contain the spread of the virus in the beginning. Okay, then the virus came again later. And the case of Sweden, who believe right from beginning we should try the natural herd immunity, meaning to say they don't do lockdown except certain period when the number was too high later. But originally, when people were locking down the country, locking down the community, Sweden allowed people to dine out and life continue as per normal. And when they interview the people on the street, they feel comfortable. Okay, so it is an approach that is different. Who is correct? Who is more correct? We cannot really know or judge or reach the conclusion quickly. We need to make an analysis and finally decide on that. There was an article written about Sweden, and they claimed that Sweden approach was not very successful because finally when they compare Sweden with Norway and Denmark, they claim that Norway and Denmark perform better than Sweden. It is based on a perspective. As I mentioned, risk management, risk assessment is basically something that is very subjective depending on what sort of weightage you put on in front of each individual loss. How many percent you want to give a weightage to loss of life, and how many percent you want to give a weightage to loss of income if you consider that as a weighted approach. If you don't consider them as a weighted approach, treat them equal, then you still have to bring them to a single currency, which is basically dollars. Then the vaccination approach. Interestingly, some countries vaccinate the most vulnerable people. Okay, some countries vaccinate the younger generation, the working class, the workers. So which one is better? You vaccinate the people in the younger people so that they can continue the economic activities, or you vaccinate the older people so that you can reduce fatality or death. So it is subjective, and some country choose one way, some country choose the other way, until finally when everything is, when the vaccine is widely available, then the issue is no longer important. It was important in the beginning, okay? And finally, people accepted that
I'm sorry, Professor. We're losing your voice. You are not audible at the moment. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, while waiting for the team to solve the technical problems, I would like to give a little bit of summary from the explanation of Professor Dr. Arshad Ahmad. Basically, feeling safe is a paramount goal for each and everyone. We pretty much want to have comfort in life, but regardless of how hard we try to keep ourselves safe, risks are still ubiquitous. Even in the safest form of transport, for example, or even when we only stay at the comfort home, an accident can still happen, such as due to electrocution. The risks, including loss of life, health impact, loss of income, loss of business opportunity, it is something which we can't avoid, but we can minimize and manage. Some of them using the method being presented by Professor Arshad Ahmad just now, such as visualization risk management using bow tie diagram, 3 lines of defense, and so on. Therefore, risk management and risk assessment are imperative to be carried out and implemented by both individuals and institutions or organizations. We thank you very much, Professor Arshad Ahmad, for your valuable time. And ladies and gentlemen, now let's move on to the second keynote speaker from Professor Peter Shehan from Victoria University, Melbourne, Australia. However, before I give the time to Mr. Professor Peter Shehan, I would like to introduce him a little bit. Professor Peter Shehan is currently a research director in Victoria Institute of Strategic Economic Studies. Professor Shehan obtained his Bachelor of Science title from University of Melbourne. He got Master of Arts with honors from University of Melbourne, and after that, he also got Doctor of Philosophy from Oxford University. Professor Peter Shehan was founding director of the Center for Strategic Economic Studies at Victoria University in Melbourne in 1992. Now, it is known as Victoria Institute of Strategic Economic Studies since 2014. From 1982 up to 1991, he was Director General of the Department of Management and Budget in the Victorian government, where he led the development of innovative economic and technology strategies and the integration of new ideas into developed and implemented policies. Since 1994, he has made a substantial contribution to the field of studies of the global knowledge economy and of its Australian and international ramifications. His contribution in the study of knowledge economy has had an emphasis on the policy implications of these changes and on their implication of industrialization in developing countries, particularly China. In the context of rapid technological and structural change on the future prospect for global warming. He has also long been involved in the health sector. His more recent work includes a 2013 study on estimating the return to investing in child and maternal health conducted in collaboration with the World Health Organization. With result published in the Lancet in 2014, then he was leader of a large international team funded by the UNFPA to document the return to the intervention to improve the welfare of adolescents aged 10 to 19 years in 74 developing countries to 2035. Other projects have followed on investing in adolescents in India and Burundi, along with studies in investing in education, mental health, road safety, and NCDs. Without further ado, it is a great honor to present to you Professor Peter Shehan with his keynote speech with the title Economic Development with Changing Global Technologies. To Professor Shehan, the virtual stage is yours.
Sorry about that. The host needed that I unmute myself. It's a great pleasure talking to this conference, the International Conference on Applied Science and Technology in Samarinda. I'm extremely honoured to be here. My topic, as the chairman has told us, is economic development with changing global technologies. And I think this last few years have been extraordinary ones in the history of the world. We have seen the COVID, obviously the COVID crisis. We have an acceleration of the climate change issues, and we are seeing some retreat from globalisation. We've all experienced the reality of COVID to different degrees in different countries and are feeling the impact now of climate change. And various factors have made countries more inward looking with a less focus on global activity. This is partly change in nature of economic activity, but the conflict between the US and its allies and China has not helped that process. And it's a great pleasure to me to see Indonesia playing a more constructive role than Australia in that particular process. And it is interesting that with this change in globalization, China is in the process of revising its development strategy, and that is something we should all take note of. The climate change issue is obviously right on the agenda, and both the Australian and the Indonesian leaders will be in the COP26 meeting in Glasgow just next weekend. These and other trends mean an increased role for new and emerging technologies in health, in medicine, in energy use and the environment, and in online communications. The issues we face now are as much issues of the distribution and application of technologies as of their discovery. And as I say, this is leading to new ways of thinking about economic development. And in the time available, I just want to make a few points about these issues. Turning first to COVID and its implications. The COVID-19 pandemic has been devastating, but has had very diverse impacts for different countries across the world. In my view, it's taught us many things. We've seen the most rapid creation of effective vaccines that the world has ever seen. It has been remarkable how quickly the various vaccines have emerged and been reviewed and accepted by WHO and other authorities. But we have also seen the distribution of those vaccines being grossly inequitable around the world. And other technologies have, of course, been important in stages in detecting COVID, in diagnosing COVID, and in treating COVID. But I think the inequality of the distribution of those technologies, given how we develop and make technologies available to other countries, is something that has been highlighted for everybody. For me, one of the most striking features of COVID-19 is that, for example, if you look at the data for the last week, you find that the average number of the three countries with the average number of the highest average number of new cases over the last week have been the US, the UK and Russia. And the two countries with the highest average new deaths are the USA and Russia. And these, of course, are countries you would have thought of as technological leaders, and countries that were actually leaders in developing the various vaccines and other technologies. But they are 20 months into the pandemic, they are still experiencing the worst outcomes. And what this, I think, teaches us is that the response to COVID, as for so many other things, is not just about technology and having technology, but it's about the strength of the community, about social cohesion, about good governance, and the ability to manage a community response which incorporates technology, but which goes beyond technology in an effective way. And one of my themes is technologies and their distribution and application is a critical thing now going ahead. We can see this in Indonesia's remarkable experience with COVID. In the week to the 17th of July, the daily average of new cases in Indonesia was 50,000. A very serious impact of the virus. In a couple of weeks later, in the 2 weeks to the 2nd of August, the Indonesian average daily death toll was 1,800. Now, only a couple of months later, the figures this week for Indonesia are 2% of those. They have fallen by 98% from the peak. And this presumably reflects not a big uptake in vaccination. The total vaccination rate for Indonesia is still only 24%, but a remarkably effective set of lockdowns and other policies that were put in place and presumably abided by the people to reduce this burden of illness and injury very remarkably. So that issue increases, that issue highlights my theme here that new technologies are very important. They are very poorly distributed around the world, but even so, the application of effective policies with good governance and social cohesion is critical. If I now turn to climate change, in principle, we know the main lines of the global response to technology, to climate change. This is through continued improvements in energy efficiency, using less energy per unit of GDP, in electrification of everywhere possible, especially of energy use and transport, and the generation of that electricity through clean energy sources. There are other critical issues, of course, such as the heavy emissions emerging from forest destruction and forest fires in the Amazon and Indonesia. But in the major issue of energy use, we know in principle where to go, and we know, and we already have many of the technologies we need, but they're developed, they need to be further developed. So the technologies that drive electrification, like solar, wind and hydro, and other forms of renewable generation, electric vehicles, and the development and use of clean hydrogen. These are reasonably well known, although they're still developing. The critical issue, of course, is the effective transmission and implementation of these technologies in countries around the world. And this is a critical issue, particularly in the Asia-Pacific region, which accounts for nearly half of the world's use of fossil fuels, and has made overall not much progress in moving away from fossil fuels. And with many leaders from the Asia-Pacific region, such as the leaders of Indonesia and Australia at Glasgow next weekend, this is going to be, again, a big issue, a key issue on the agenda. Both of our countries, Australia and Indonesia, have energy and production systems heavily focused on fossil fuels. In the case of Indonesia, for example, 93% of Indonesia's energy use comes from fossil fuels. How quickly Indonesia can shift to new and emerging technologies here will be critical for its future. And indeed, given the scale of Indonesia, for the global climate. Again, I stress the theme of this is about emerging technologies and their distribution and application. This might, not that I would claim any knowledge, but you know, these might be important issues also in Samarinda, whereas I note you have a continuing flood problem and are also a centre of the coal industry, and some commentators argue that these two problems are linked to one another. I think it's also worth noting that the two issues I've been discussing so far, climate change and pandemics, COVID, are not unrelated. We know that there are a very large number of diseases in the animal population that are very dangerous for humans if they jump across to the human community. And we know the risks of these diseases. We know that both the number of those diseases and the risk of those diseases jumping are increasing over time. And this reflects, in good part, the destruction of the natural environment, the increase of urbanisation into animal habitats, the effect of climate change on animals moving their habitats, and more generally the destruction of habitats. So these issues of the future threat of pandemics and our ability to control climate change and environmental damage are intimately related to one another. We need to address both of these issues going forward. Finally, I would just like to make some brief comments on what we are learning from these things about economic development. Firstly, while we've been through a period of what economists call neoclassical economics, and there was a focus on above all, increasing free markets to enable manufacturing-led growth around the world to develop. We have learned that that's only part of the story at best. And looking forward, it is clear that economic development will be more locally based and which will focus on the improvement in human well-being. And the equity of the community and of an effective government. So this is a new focus, not a renewed focus rather than new focus, placing human well-being more than the growth of GDP as we inadequately measure at the present time at the centre of policy responses. Secondly, this will imply renewed emphasis on the services sector and particularly on health and on education and on the use of emerging internet and other technologies to facilitate improvement in those areas and in the distribution, the improved access through the community to those services. Thirdly, the transition to energy and environmental technologies driven by climate change and health will transform the world economy. In 10 years' time, the economy in global economy and the economy in each country will look very different. And how countries manage to respond, how they react to this challenge will be critical for how they develop. I know in Australia there is an ongoing and rather unsatisfactory debate going on, which is not yet resolved, but many people at least see that Australia can prosper by aggressively adopting new climate and health technologies and emphasising corporate community solidarity and cohesion. And I think that's the case also, the challenge for Indonesia. And as I've emphasised, the equitable access to emerging technologies and their diffusion into countries, particularly maybe, but not only, countries in the Asia-Pacific region is a critical challenge going ahead. There are big issues to be addressed here about how we reorganise the production and diffusion of new technologies. But that's perhaps an issue for the 5th International Conference on Applied Science and Technology. Thank you very much for listening to what I have to say.
Thank you very much, Mr. Professor Peter Shehan. We would like to open some question and answer session. And if you have any question at all, you can ask directly to Professor Shehan. Anyone? Operators? So basically, many countries, based on the presentation from Professor Shehan, still depends on fossil fuels. And in these uncertainties during the COVID-19 pandemic, how quickly we can shift to renewable energy will decide the future of the countries that still depends on fossil fuel regarding with the climate change and global warming. And we also need to combine the new technology as well as the community involvement to overcome this problem that we are currently facing at the moment. Is there anything you would like to add, Professor?
Well, I'm surprised that my remarks were clear enough, but people might be focusing on later sessions. I think that for all of us, it is going to be a difficult period to adopt these changing technologies. I mean, it is really important to notice that clean energy technologies, for example, are actually the wave of the future. I mean, in the sense that they are already in many areas more cost competitive. As more and more countries invest in them, they are going to become more and more effective. That increasingly some countries are talking about tariffs against countries whose energy systems remain fossil intensive. So these are issues that every country, and I think particularly the countries in the Asia Pacific region, who've seen, many of them have seen admirable and rapid economic growth, but largely based out of fossil fuels. And China is to some degree leading the way. China is the classic case of a country that achieved extraordinary economic growth based on fossil fuels. But it is leading the way in the Asia Pacific region in the technological development and application. And as we have now seen, that government has now committed to zero net emissions now, I see, before 2060. So it is something we can achieve, but it is a key issue for every country.
Okay. I think we have a question here from Dr. Tommy Ekamitra.
Certainly, good.
Dr. Tommy Ekamitra. Operator, can you help unmute Dr. Tommy Ekamitra, please? We are still working on that one. Okay, please, Mr. Tommy Ekamitra.
Okay, thank you for the chance. Very interesting presentations by Professor Shehan. I'm very interested when you're talking about renewable energy progress. For instance, I have listened and hear from news that Europe now has a problem in energy crisis in this couple of days or maybe weeks. Also China. And we know that they have very fast progress, of course, in terms of improving renewable energy, both in implementation and research. My question is, what's actually happened now in Europe and China? And also it will bring questions to also create ambiguity for us to what direction we will continue for the research in renewable energy. And also my questions, where is Australia standpoint on this case? Thank you.
Sorry, Tommy, you mean on the particular current case or generally on the renewable energy case?
In this couple of days or weeks, I don't know if you follow the news. Yeah.
Yes, I know about it. I know
ISIS.
about it.
Yeah.
Well, you know, my view is that while I don't claim to understand entirely the current energy crisis, it is very severe. I don't think it is primarily, it doesn't tell us anything of a long-term nature about the limitations of a renewable energy-based economy. There seem to be a lot of things going on. There are global supply shortages around the world as economies recover, but the supplies have been reduced as a result of the COVID situation. China has stopped using Australian coal, which has led to China pushing up the prices for coal internationally. Russia is building up its supplies of gas, which had run down during the crisis, and that is freezing Europe, stopping the supplies of gas into Europe. The oil producers seem to be using this post-COVID thing to try to increase oil prices. So, I mean, I agree. I think it's a very important issue that you raised. I don't see any reason at the present time to suggest that it's a fundamental problem for the long-run direction towards renewables, but it is an urgent problem that needs to be solved as economies move out of the COVID recession. And some of the things that were done then will probably need to be rethought.
Yeah. The next question is, where is Australia's standpoint now in terms of energy, renewable energy progress? Because Australia is one of the countries who produce a big amount of coal, for instance.
Well, it'd be good if you could tell me, Tommy, but let me tell you what little I know. In Australia, we have 6 state governments and a national government. All 6 state governments are committed to phasing out coal and to 50% net zero emissions by 2050. The business community, the big companies, the big mining companies are all strongly supportive of that. The only group whose position is not clear is the Australian government. And seeing that the 6 states make up all of the country, that might matter. But the big argument that's going on is what the Australian government's position is going to be. The Australian government is a coalition of the Liberal Party, which is mainly city-based parties, and the National Party, which is basically country-based. So they haven't reached agreement. But the Prime Minister will take a net zero by 2050 commitment to Glasgow. But, you know, the vast majority of states, of governments and businesses in Australia see a post-coal renewable future as not only the way to go, but very positive for Australia. There's a lot of investment going on, a lot of planning and investment going on big hydrogen production plants based on renewable energy, whether hydro or solar or so forth. So everybody except the Australian government thinks that's the way to go.
Thank you very much, Mr. Professor
All right, thank you,
Shehan. And thank you very much, Dr. Tommy, for your questions. But unfortunately, it is time for us to have a break before we move on to the next session, which is the presentation from the presenters from each room. And to all the participants, we hope you guys stay in this room. And the operators later on are going to direct you guys into your own breakout rooms. And to Professor Peter Shehan and Professor Arshad Ahmad, we thank you very much for taking your valuable time to be the keynote speakers for our today's agenda. We really appreciate it. We hope that we will be able to see you again, both offline or online. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much too.
Have a good day.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye, sir.
Bye.
Okay, I think that's all for now. We are going to have a break, and everybody is expected to come back again at 1 o'clock WITA sharp. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.